everybody. This is JT Productions, and welcome back to another deep dive into a football game for the 2024 season. Today, by suggestion from Treebeard the Bear 9996, I'll be doing Georgia at Kentucky. So, the last two games I've done have been Georgia road games, and this game is no different. Georgia starts the season playing against Clemson in Atlanta and then against Tennessee Tech before going on the road to Kentucky. Kentucky has a little bit easier road. I believe they play two group of five teams before going and hosting Georgia. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at the schedule lately, but this is going to be Georgia's first test of the season, and it is Kentucky's as well, but Kentucky gets it at home, which helps them out. So let's look at the rosters for each team so we can sort of predict what's going to happen. Well, I've done Georgia's more in depth the last two videos I've done, so I'll be a little bit faster with these. Uh, I'll just talk about the starters and the main guys that I have things to say about. Well, Georgia has Carson Beck back from last year as a second year starting as a redshirt senior. So he will be starting if he can take it the next step with regards to his deep ball accuracy and his composure. We will be just fine. The running back room is much improved from last year. Trevor Etienne coming in from Florida is a big get. Getting Branson Robinson back from injury is another big get. So we're going to have a dynamic duo with him and Branson, barring injury. The wide receiver room, we have Robert Thomas, Dominic Lovett, and Dylan Bell returning, as well as a few transfers coming in. Colby Young, who looks to make an impact immediately, big body jump ball guy. He's going to be helpful in the end zone. London Humphreys, who's said to be the Vanderbilt version of Lad McConkey, so maybe he could help fill that role. And Michael Jackson III, who coming over from USC, he is a sort of a slot guy from what I can tell. So he's going to be impact. He's going to make an impact. Anthony Evans, watch out for him to also get into the starting lineup as well. And if Arian Smith can be more consistent, him as well. Going to the tight ends, Oscar Delp, a step down from Brock Bowers, but not far. He's very talented, very athletic, and he can block as well. We also get Benjamin Urasek from Stanford coming in for some for maybe a 1-2 punch at tight end. Lawson Lucky getting better and better. He looked good last year as a true freshman, so we'll see how he does this year. On the offensive line, Ernest Green, Dylan Fairchild, and Tate Ratledge return to be the cornerstones of the offensive line. And if Xavier Truss can be more consistent at tackle, then he will also be a cornerstone. The problem with him last year, he was started the season as a guard, and every time Marius Mims had to go down with an injury, Xavier Truss was put at tackle, and he just never got used to it. Behind them, we got some notable guys like Monroe Freeling and Micah Morris, who look to maybe rotate in, if they can, to a starting role. Kelton Smith, sadly, has just announced that he's retiring medically from football. I hope everything goes well for him, and he has a great college career. So that is the main offense. We have some notable freshmen that we have coming in. Ryan Puglisi, 4-star quarterback. Jaden Riddell, I believe, is a 4 or 5-star tight end. Nitro Togo, I believe, is a 5-star wide receiver. Daniel Calhoun, 5-star offensive lineman. And Malachi Tolliver, I believe, is also a 5-star offensive lineman. Going over to the defensive side, my main question is, are we going to see a breakout from any of these three defensive linemen here? Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, Nazir Stackhouse, or Warren Brinson? All three have had a couple of seasons of rotating in and starting to get some experience under their belt. If we can't see one of them break out, are we going to see one of the young guys, Christian Miller, Jamal Jarrett, or Jordan Hall, step in? Or even the youngest guys, Joseph Jonah Aguaye, Jordan Thomas, Justin Green, Nnamdi Agbako, Nazir Johnson, or the transfer from South Carolina, Xavier McLeod, redshirt freshman. We'll see. That's my question on here is, are we going to see anybody break out? But in general, the D line is very experienced and very good. Linebacking core. I'm glad to see Michael Williams is now at outside linebacker or edge instead of defensive end on the interior or on the inside defensive end, not interior. Because in my opinion, he's he would be better used as a edge player like an Aziz Ojulari. So I guess that's what they're going to be using him for this year. Uh, on the other side, you have Chaz Chambliss, who's just been your very consistent guy, uh, a guy you want to root for, sort of like Dan Jackson at safety. Two guys that made the starting lineups or the starting rotations that weren't looked at as making them, that are now seniors and projected to start. And the inside, you have Shmal Munden, solid um, guy that defenses fear, and C.J. Allen, very talented linebacker for us. Raylan Wilson and Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker is like a Swiss Army knife on this defense, sort of like Dylan Bell on the offensive side. He's going to make an impact, in my opinion. Raylan Wilson, very solid, very good, young linebacker. In the secondary, Julian Humphrey, he is, if he continues on the path he was at last year, he's going to be a very good corner for us. Dalen Everett needs to be more consistent. He he had a reputation of getting beat last year on deep plays, so we'll see if it works out for him or if a guy like Ellis Robinson at freshman takes over his place. Safeties, we have Malachi Starks and Dan Jackson. Malachi Starks probably the best safety in the country, so that's going to help us a lot. Joe Aguero, a freshman last year, projected to play the nickel star position for us. I could see him play it. I could see KJ Bolden play it. I could see Daniel Harris play it. Any of these guys. David Daniel Sisavon going to be a good depth guy. So is Kyron Jones. Um, and we also have like Justin Rhett, redshirt freshman, and Ja'Cory Thomas Jr. Now, looking at the breakout freshmen or the notable freshmen on defense, Ellis Robinson, KJ Bolden, 2 5 stars. Joseph Joel Ogoye, another 5 star. Justin Williams, another 5 star. All these guys looking good. Also, we have a redshirt sophomore transfer, Jake Pope from Alabama. So, special teams, Peyton Woodrick's back, sophomore, and Brett Thorson, the Aussie, is back as well. So, going over to Kentucky. Kentucky, they have a new quarterback. It's either going to be Brock Vandagriff, who transferred from Georgia, or Bo Allen, who was originally at Kentucky, transferred to junior college, transferred to Georgia Southern, and is now back at Kentucky. So that's your quarterback battle. I think Brock Vandagriff's got in the bag, though. At running back, Demi Sumo Cargnabe, I guess. That's how you say it. And also a transfer, DeMonte Tranium from Ohio State. Uh, so that Tranium was a good running back at Ohio State, so we'll see if he can take his talents to Kentucky, sort of like Ray Davis did last year when he took his from Vandy to Kentucky. The wide receiver position, Kentucky has a lot of talent here. Dane Key is a really good receiver, so is Barry and Brown. A lot of potential for them. You also have guys like Anthony Brown Stevens, who made some plays last year. Brandon White, and Santos Alvarez. He also brought in some transfers at wide receiver. Fred Ferrier from UAB and Jamori McLean coming in from North Texas, as well as hard. You have some. Excuse me. Oh goodness. So that is your wide receiver core. I think you have a good wide receiver core for Kentucky standards. Um, But you got some guys. You got Dane Key, you got Barry Brown. Those are some really good wide receivers. Tight end, Josh Caddis, Jordan Dingle. Those two guys have been your very consistent tight ends over the past couple of seasons. The offensive line, Marquise Cox, Dylan Ray, Eli Cox, uh, Jagger Burton, and transfer Gerald Mincey from Tennessee. Mincey was a great offensive lineman for the Volunteers, so I think he's going to be a good tackle for them. They also got Jalen Farmer transfer from Florida um, to help be a rotational guy, if not a backup. Behind the backups for Kentucky, speaking of that, Ben Christman, Paul Rodriguez, Colby Keenum, Farmer, of course, and Cortland Ford. So there's your offense for Kentucky. You have a lot of depth freshmen like Cutter Boley, Tavani Mizzi, Jason Patterson running back, Hardly Gilmore the fourth, Hayes Johnson, Mark Nave, and Abba Selm. So all in all, Kentucky a uh, has a pretty good offense to compete. Now, their defense, will it be up to snuff as well? Well, you got returning starter Dion Walker, who was a great player for you last year, as well as J.J. Weaver. You also have returning Trayvon Rabica, Josiah Hayes, and Dear Jackson, I guess is how you say his name. All those seniors besides Dion Walker, all returning, all veteran. You also have junior Alex Afari, Jonquise Hardaway, Zion Childress, Jordan Lovett, and Maxwell Hairston, all returning. Not to mention Jamal Dewis Johnson, who's a senior transfer from Georgia, who was Georgia's star linebacker. So your starting 11 on defense, a lot of veteran talent. I think Kentucky's still gonna be a good defense once again. Behind them, you have a good rotational. Khalil Saunders, Keyshawn Silver, Octavius Oxendine, who saw some time last year, Tyrese Fearbury, Noah Meadows, Daverin Rayner, Grant Godfrey, Ganson Dunn, Ty Bryant, and Nazir Addison. You bring in transfers in the secondary. Christian Story, who's coming in from Alabama, very good player for the Tide. He saw some time last year with them. Uh, and besides that, Kentucky's defense. This says freshman transfer. I checked it. He transferred to Pitt from Kentucky. Your defense is going to be your strong suit again this year, I believe. You also bring back Alex Rayner at place kicker and Wilson Berry at punter. So that is your rosters really for both Georgia and Kentucky. Now, I do think that Georgia is too talented to lose to Kentucky at this point. Well, not too talented to lose, but I think it's more likely than not that Georgia will win this game. Now, granted, it is early in the season. Georgia has not had the best reputation going to Kentucky to play. For instance, in 2020, I believe they won 14-3. 2022, we won, I believe, like 19-13 or something like that. So we have not had an easy road in Lexington. It's early in the year. I do think Georgia wins. I think the inexperience of Vandergriff is going to hold Kentucky's offense back against the Georgia defense that's familiar with him. Now, Kentucky's defense could keep Kentucky in the game. I just think Georgia is going to be too much to handle. So, there you go. I think Georgia beats Kentucky to uh, start the season. I don't know, maybe 3-0. So, we'll see. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and Go Dogs.